You're listening to the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast with your host, Bill Clanton.
And welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast. I'm Bill Clanton, and this podcast is the documentation of my journey from employee to entrepreneur. I left my job in November of 2013 and have not looked back since, because I knew that I needed to make a change, and I felt as though entrepreneurship was for me. And here I am 4 years later, and I refuse to look back. Only to look back and learn, but not to go back, we'll say. Well, I hope that you've joined us from the start, and if not, go back and check out some of our older episodes to see what the parts of the story that you may have missed. Want to let you know that I'm plugging away the release of the book Employee to Entrepreneur, 5 Days That Changed My Life, will be coming out this spring. So that's going to be an exciting thing. You're going to be able to get it on Amazon. You'll be able to get it on Kindle, all those wonderful devices, iBook, wherever ebooks are sold, and also paperback. So it's going to be quite an exciting time to get this. Everything that we're learning here in the podcast and part of my journey is going to be a part of the book, Employee to Entrepreneur. So far in the podcast, we've talked about the 5 days that changed my life, and that was where I took a vacation and for 5 days pretended that I did not have a job to go back to. So for 5 days, I pretended to be an entrepreneur. And that really kind of set the bar for my emotional intelligence, my self-awareness, and lead gathering for starting my own company. So last week we talked about the comfort zone and how we find ourselves in these comfort zones, and it's so easy to just sit there and let the paycheck come in every week and not have to worry about it. But then you can step outside that comfort zone and reap the rewards of entrepreneurship if you're willing to put in the work. That's the big W. And then we also talked about having a thick skin, because you know what? Not every client is going to be happy with everything you do. Sometimes there are people you just can't please. And so you need to have a thick skin, and also you need to know when to say no. Don't take every job just because you need the money. You've got to be able to just know when to say no, and be able to be willing to walk away from the table if the money isn't right, if the relationship isn't right, and perhaps if the emotional intelligence of the client isn't right. And I've mentioned so far a couple interesting things. I mentioned that my wife is also an entrepreneur, and she has her own business. And this was one of the things that helped me when I was making that transition from employee to entrepreneur, because in a way it became a little bit of the safety net. She started her business a few years before I decided to leave my job. And what's interesting is she started her business with no debt. I know that may sound a little crazy, but she started her business, no debt, no loans, minimal investment. She started a cleaning company, and the thing is, yes, to start a cleaning company, it's not a huge investment, be honest. It really isn't a huge investment to start one, but you've got to look at it as more than just cleaning toilets, and that's the way she looked at it. She looked at it more as building her cleaning empire rather than just a way to make some cash. She's had situations, like I said last week on the podcast, where you got to be willing to say no. Oh, she's had situations where she's flat out said no to a client or fired the client because it just did not fit with her mission and how she wanted to run her business, and some things were just either out of the scope of what she wanted to do, or sometimes you do get a client that just isn't that nice. So, and especially when you're going into people's homes and you're cleaning for them, having that chemistry and the connection with them and the trust is also a plus. But she's been very successful with her business. And for a long time, she was an employee until my son was born. And then she was a stay-at-home mom for quite a while. And then we both came to the decision that she should start some sort of cleaning company. She had done it kind of on the side, little jobs here and there. And then she launched Natty Cleans, LLC, a totally legit corporation. And now she's got a team of girls working for her. She has done everything right. And that's another thing that I want to convey to you. As you may be watching this or listening to this, and you're saying, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to start my own business. Well, doing it right is very, very important, because if you don't do it right, you're going to have to, you can end up with a lot of headaches in the future. So my wife did it right, and she's doing it right. I mean, she is crushing it. Now with her business, she's actually bringing in more than my old salary when I had a job. And we were living off of just my income for a long time. So when you talk about being successful, I could not be more proud of what my wife has done with her business and how she's grown it. And she's done very good at word of mouth advertising and referrals. So she's really done a lot to build her business up. So with that, we work together, husband and wife. We work together as a team. And I think teamwork, no matter what you're doing, having a team and teamwork is mission critical. You've got to have a support team. And with that support team, you want to be careful of who you surround yourself with. You know the old saying, you become like the 5 people that you spend the most time with? Well, that is so true. If you surround yourself with complainers and whiners, and for lack of a better term, losers, chances are you may end up like them. So surround yourself with winners. Surround yourself with people who are influencers. Surround yourself with successful people. And that's one of the things that also helped my wife, because her clientele, this is where, going back, knowing when to say no, she would only take on the more higher status client, the clients that were well-to-do with the fancy homes, and she kind of set a standard for her business for the upper echelon of our area. And as a result, she was being able to spend time with some of these really wealthy influencers who had already made their millions, and she did something very, very smart. And this is something I suggest to you whenever you're faced with an opportunity where you can speak to one of these people, or you're invited into their home or whatever. Ask them how they made their money. And I guarantee you, one of the first things they're going to tell you is they worked hard to do it. Now, I understand some people, they get born into money. No, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who built an empire from nothing to something. And my wife had the benefit of several of her clients being in this realm, and she was a student, and she listened to what they had to say. She absorbed their stories. So by surrounding herself with these really successful people, that helped her succeed in her business to build her cleaning empire. That pretty much, she's at that point with her business where she's seeing exponential growth. And I think that's a point where if you're willing to be in it for the long haul, make the small investments every day towards your goal as an entrepreneur, you will reap the rewards. For my wife, this is going to be her 7th year in business. And that's phenomenal. 7 years, and now she's seeing exponential growth. It was worth the 7 years of hustling to build this to where now she has built up such a reputation that people are seeking her out to partner with. Other businesses in the area want to work with her. People are seeking her out to the point to where some clients won't refer her because they're afraid that she's going to get too busy to take care of them. So this is where the little investments you can make into your future will add up I know that Gary Vaynerchuk recently had a thing about, pretty much for 24 months you eat crap so that later on you can eat caviar. And I think that is so true. So the delayed gratification is such an important part of that, and surrounding yourself with winners. And if you're presented with the opportunity to speak to somebody who has built an empire from nothing to something, take a moment, ask them how they did it, and absorb that, because that type of knowledge is priceless. Well, that's going to wrap things up for episode number 5 of the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast. I'm Bill Clanton. Remember, this is documenting my journey from employee to entrepreneur and the many things that I've seen, the moments I've won and lost along the way. Remember, follow me on Instagram, Bill Clanton Biz. I'm on Twitter, Bill Clanton Biz. On Facebook, find my page at WWN Interactive. Subscribe to this channel on YouTube. Just search for Bill Clanton Biz, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
This has been the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast, a production of WWN Interactive.